Hello again, brothers and sisters, friends, and undoubtedly some enemies, probably some frenemies, and comrades. Here I am again with another YouTube. I know that the previous YouTubes I posted are getting way more than a couple hundred hits. I know because the one I sent to Venezuela went viral in Venezuela a couple of weeks ago and around Latin America. I know this because I actually got some death threats from it. People saying I shouldn't trash the United States. Well, people who say I shouldn't trash the United States, I have some news for you. If you live here in the United States, you live in a freak show. We are absolutely the most violent, out of control empire, if not in history, definitely in modern history and on the earth today. So, as I am talking to you, this is the 16th anniversary of the US invasion and occupation of Afghanistan in 2001. And of course, we know that's not the first time the US was involved in destabilizing Afghanistan. There was the proxy war between the United States and the USSR when Jimmy Carter was president, definitely. And so felt that blowback. The United States invaded Afghanistan in October of 2001 in this misadventure. And so it was barely a month after 9/11 happened, not really, not even a month. And I know that there were families of people who were killed on 9/11 who adamantly opposed this invasion of Afghanistan. Afghanistan had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11, even if that is the rationale that they give. And Afghanistan didn't attack us. Afghanistan certainly now or then poses no threat to the United States of America. And then this upcoming year in March will be the 15th anniversary that the United States has been, this time, since the 2000s, invading and occupying Iraq. And we know during the Clinton administration that, and the first Bush administration, that the U.S. had a program to destroy Iraq and depose Saddam Hussein. Well, now we have a president who many of you, and I'm sorry to drop this truth bomb on you, many of you thought he was the anti-war candidate. Well, most of us knew that that was just complete and utter horse doo-doo, and that he has proven to be the able servant of empire that Barack Obama was for 8 years with very little opposition to his policies. Barack Obama was militarily involved in this destruction of 7 Arab Muslim countries. He bragged about being the only president ever to be at war all 8 years of his administration. Well, we know that's wrong because the United States actually has only been not at war for a couple dozen years of its entire history. So almost every president is always at some overt or covert war, planning for a war, threatening wars, terrorizing innocent populations, and especially since World War II with the national security state and the rise of the CIA, NSA, FBI, all these deep state agencies that are just put in to overthrow other governments, assassinate world leaders, assassinate other activists, go on programs of undermining and lying about activists to undermine the power. And then we have the Democratic Party, who the Democratic Party has rightly been called the graveyard of movements, because as soon as there's a movement that has popular support, such as Camp Casey in 2005 for the anti-war movement, such as Occupy Wall Street, the Keystone Pipeline protests, the 350.org, any movement that gets popular support will be infiltrated or just outright compromised by being affiliated with the Democratic Party. So the Democrats turn all these movements not into movements for social change, but movements to get out the vote for Democrats. So anyway, here we find ourselves in the longest foreign war. Now we have to say it's the longest foreign war because we know that the United States had, and as I speak about this, tomorrow the United States is also going to be celebrating Columbus Day, and I posted a meme on my Facebook wall and on my Soapbox newsletter saying Happy Columbus Didn't Discover Shit Day. And he didn't discover shit, and he did come to come to a land that was already populated. And so how do you discover something that already has people living on it? But not only that, started a program of slavery and genocide and rape and murder and exploiting the people and the resources of those lands that he was supposedly supposed to discover. So I got off on this Columbus Day thing, but what I want to say is now that these people thought they were voting for Trump because he was an anti-war candidate. Perhaps he was more anti-war than Clinton. God knows where we'd be if she had been elected in 2016. But Trump recently has threatened North Korea with complete annihilation. They say North Korea won't listen to reason, they won't negotiate, and the only thing that is going to stop them is apparently bombing them. And so he's been very belligerent. His rhetoric against North Korea again, except for when the United States invaded and militarily destroyed the country of Korea in the 50s. North Korea hasn't been a threat to any other country, especially the United States. Russia. The rhetoric against Russia is ramping up more economic sanctions. Iran. The other day, Trump said, "This is the calm before the storm." He thinking of overturning the Iran nuclear agreement. That, of course, was not really an agreement. It was imposition of something of the United States that has 7,000 nuclear bombs against Iran that had 0 nuclear bombs. And he's speaking very hostilely, very belligerently against Iran again. And Venezuela is in a very compromising position as the country that has the most oil resources, reserves in the entire world. And the arrogant, out of control people of Venezuela have the absolutely crazy idea that oil and the proceeds from the oil belong to the people of Venezuela. And so they started getting those loco ideas when Chavez was elected in 1998. And since then, the United States has spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort trying to overthrow Chavez. There's some evidence that he was given cancer. Of course, the CIA has that capability. They have the will to do that. They wouldn't hesitate in doing that. Several other leftish South American leaders got cancer at the same time, and they were fortunately able to overcome it. Unfortunately, Chavez wasn't. And since he died, the people of Venezuela have had to work overtime to protect their sovereignty, to protect the Bolivarian Revolution. And on Friday, October 13th, there's a situation where the Organization of American States, against its own charter, will try to place a Supreme Court and a government in exile for Venezuela. And of course, many people around the world will recognize that this government is illegitimate, but the only thing that will give it any kind of legitimacy will be the United States. And the United States is on board with this plan of the OAS, of course. And so then the worry is, what if this so-called government in exile that's completely illegitimate in international law by the Organization of American States' own charter, but the president, Luis Almagro, has worked very hard with the United States to demonize the Bolivarian Revolution, to demonize the election of the Constituent Assembly recently that was completely illegal. It was a brilliant move by Maduro, the current president of Venezuela, to call for it. The situation has stabilized. The violence has gone down. People are excited about rewriting their constitution that was a brilliant constitution that was written by the people and ratified by the people in 1999. And that gives things like housing, education, health care, dental care, education for people who were illiterate, because they were poor. So many of these missions that were given human rights status in the Venezuelan Constitution, where here in the United States, all those things are privileges. And if you don't have a house, if you're poor, you don't have a job, you don't have a house, you don't have healthy food, you don't have access to quality health care, then it's your fault. You're screwed. So this country screws us in so many ways, and the Bolivarian Revolution tried to rectify that, that oppression of the Venezuelan people with their constitution, and they're excited about being in this process. Every sector of society, every province, every community is involved in writing this constitution. Over 8 million people went out to vote to have this constituent assembly, which was a constitutional vote under the Bolivarian Constitution. So it's all legitimate. It's all valid. It's all transparent. And the United States, of course, wants a regime like this so-called government in exile. They want this regime that will be more friendly to U.S. oil companies again. The oil companies in the United States since the beginning of maybe the end of the 19th century, certainly the beginning of the 20th century, have really driven foreign policy. And we know that that Iraq, where my son was killed, and the Middle East is particularly oil rich. Venezuela, of course, is up there. But after increased sanctions were announced, Maduro recently said we need to stop trading our oil in dollars. And that's the one thing that signals the beginning of the end. And so we need to oppose this October 13th coup that is happening. And the thing that we're worried about, and I had a meeting yesterday with some Bay Area activists and the new consul general in the consulate in San Francisco, Antonio Cordero, and we had this meeting. And the concern is that this government in exile will demand that the United States perform one of their humanitarian interventions that we're so well known for, that end up in disaster whenever the U.S. is involved militarily anywhere, whenever there's any kind of intervention, covertly or overtly, or even if they go through the United Nations and get a no-fly zone, we know that immediately means disaster for the people. So as a leftist, as I am, I know not everybody who's watching this is on the left. I know that I do have many people who oppose my support of sovereignty for all oppressed people, for solidarity with all oppressed people. But I think most of you who are watching this are on the left, and I think that as a leftist, as a socialist myself, we have to be in solidarity with the people. And Vladimir Lenin said that the oppressed people get to choose their response to oppression. They get to choose how they are going to throw off the yoke of capitalism and imperialism. And we can't choose that for the people of Venezuela. We can't choose it for the people of Korea. It doesn't matter North or South Korea. If Trump sticks his, big fat face into Korea, it's going to harm the whole country, and it's going to harm, hundreds of thousands of Americans who are there. Also, we can't choose how Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or Libya would choose to confront and to fight their oppressors. It's up to the people, the oppressed people, to choose that, but it's up to us to be in solidarity, especially those of us who live in this freak show. I wake up every morning and I think, wow, what is this freak show going to do today that's going to make me even more angry, more sad, more feeling sorrow and compassion for oppressed people all over the world, here in the United States, this racist, chauvinist country that we live in, fascist country that we live in. There's so much oppression around the world caused by the United States. And so then there's going to be a lot of people that always tell me, Cindy, you need to love it or leave it. And my answer is, why should I have to leave? I actually loathe the government of the United States, but I love many people who live here. I have family here. This is my community. What if all of us who wanted to make the world a better place left the United States? Besides, where would we go? Where would we go that the U.S. isn't screwing right now, has screwed, or wants to screw? That's like everywhere in the world. So if we're going to choose somewhere to stand and fight, we might as well be here and stand and fight here to make the world a better place for everybody on this planet, not just the imperialists, not just the capitalists, but 100% of the people. I'm Cindy Sheehan. For what it's worth, these have been my comments on the 16th anniversary of the longest foreign war, certainly not the longest war. That's what I was going to say about Columbus. Millions of people that were already here when he discovered America were genocided out of existence. So we have to certainly think of that, that the longest war has been against indigenous people, against people brought here by force. The so-called discovery of America started the slave trade to the New World. So we have to be in solidarity with oppressed people here in our own country too. So I'm Cindy Sheehan. Peace out for now. Solidarity forever.